Welcome, everyone. We have just about 100 people here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Sandoval, do you want to record the session, please?
Yeah, I've started recording. Thanks, Jennifer.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we're at 100 right now. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on the non-credit application for CCCApply coupled with SuperGlue. I also want to welcome and thank our guests from Pasadena City College. Go over a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I'm Dr. Jennifer Coleman. I am the director of the Student Success Suite at the CCC Technology Center. And I will talk a little bit about what that means here in just a minute. The session is being recorded. Anyone who signed up for the Zoom link will also receive a recording. And captioning is available via the closed caption button. And we welcome chat. We welcome chat for questions. I will watch the chat. I have it open and will use that for answering the questions as we go and responding during the presentation. So the session is being recorded. It will be distributed to all attendees and will be posted on our website as well. You'll receive that information. Usually we get that out within a day or two, so it should go pretty quickly. So today we're going to cover what the Student Success Suite is. Just briefly, we'll talk about how the non-credit application differs from the standard CCCApply application. And then we'll hear from Pasadena City College and they'll talk about their experience in adopting the non-credit application and SuperGlue and how that changed their local processes and time to serve students. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's next if you're interested in adopting the non-credit application. And at the end, we'll answer any questions that we haven't gotten to at that point. So first off, what is the Student Success Suite? We're going to talk a lot about that going forward as California Community College's Technology Center offering. So the Student Success Suite encompasses all of our student-facing applications, and that includes OpenCCC, which generates the system-wide account and the CCC ID, the CCCApply suite of applications, and that's the standard application, non-credit, the California College Promise Grant, which was formerly the BOG fee waiver, and then the international application. It also covers CCC My Path, which my favorite quote from a counselor is, "My path is the answer to the question, I filled out the application, now what?" And the counselor says she gets that question all the time, every day. And My Path helps not only answer the question, but give the student next steps to complete. So today our focus is going to be on the non-credit application. And as we talk about our non-credit application, I want to point out that we've done a lot of work, not only around the non-credit application, but CCCApply in general over the last couple of years. We're focused on continuous improvement, and that is driven by user feedback. So it's student-centered and guided by faculty and staff input. We had significant redesign that started in 2018, where we shortened our time to complete and simplified our tools. And now we're working on integration of all of the student-facing tools. So you'll see Student Success Suite releases and coordinated training and support. And the experience will be seamless for students. And I see someone has asked about audio. Am I having trouble or is it just on their end? Audio is good. Okay. I will continue moving forward. So some feedback opportunities I just want to point out. We have user groups and subcommittees for our products. One of our subcommittees is the fraud filter, which I'm not going to touch on much today, but we know is a hot button item. We have a committee that is discussing ways to combat fraud. We also have a dual enrollment subcommittee and one focused on incarcerated and formerly incarcerated students. You can always provide feedback and speak with other college users through our vanilla forums interface, which is at ccctechnology.info. And we also have our support team poised there to assist with questions and concerns as well. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about our new end user pilot testing process, which is for both faculty and staff and students. And so we encourage your partnership as we move to refine our products for the benefit of students and our colleges. The non-credit application was created in response to AB 3101 just a couple of short years ago. It's a shorter, more streamlined application, and it's really a workflow, not necessarily a separate application. So some of what students see, they see whether they're completing the standard app or the non-credit app. But it's intended for students enrolling exclusively in non-credit courses. And within the application, we removed the citizenship and military pages and the residency pages. Now, I also want to point out that as you have questions, as you look at whether you are wanting to adopt this for your college, how you might customize it and utilize it within your processes, I want to point out that there is full documentation available on the non-credit application. It includes an overview, product description, what the user interface includes, what it doesn't. And so this is all available under our public documentation for CCCApply. It talks about rules, supplemental questions, and has links to all kinds of other places. The link will be embedded in the presentation, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat right now so that you all can access that information if you're interested. So that full documentation is updated anytime new releases change or are released, and anytime anything else is updated. So I welcome you to review that and forward any questions. So some key characteristics about the non-credit application. Students access the app through a unique URL customized for each college based on MIS code. Because of the fact that there's a unique access point and the application is specific to non-credit, in progress and submitted apps are appended with the confirmation number NC as a prefix. And so you're able to see that an application is a non-credit app by the application number. Additionally, colleges have the option to set up different majors and programs of study for non-credit applications and present different supplemental questions for non-credit students. So you're able to configure both of those as part of the non-credit application. Now, a couple of questions that always come up. A student who submits a non-credit application for a term and later determines that they need to take a credit course can submit a standard application for the same term and the same college. They only have to answer the questions that they didn't the first time. So, which is also true if there is, if they've submitted an application previously in general, and auto population functionality is still in place. Now, the opposite is not true. If a student completes a standard application for a term, they are not easily able to complete a non-credit application. So one of the things, so it's something to be aware of in terms of your student workflows and expectations. There are a couple of questions in the chat that I'll get to. The first, is there a section on CCCApply that filters the colleges that offer non-credit programs? I'm thinking that that is taken from the CCCApply website, which is a landing place for most students. Unfortunately, no, we don't filter that dropdown by non-credit programs. What that dropdown gets is the student gets to their college that they've selected, and then the college delivers up their local web experience and can customize the way that a student enters the applications from there. What I'm seeing most often are that colleges have a page for non-credit students within their website that they're directed to, and the non-credit application link is off of that page or that set of pages specifically for non-credit students. So what we are looking at, and I'll put this out there, we are looking at options for how to significantly alter the preliminary experience of a student within the application and account creation user workflow. So one of the things that we're hearing as we work with our different subcommittees, including dual enrollment, non-credit, a couple of other groups that we've heard from, are that oftentimes selecting a major, a program of study, an educational goal is difficult. Students don't necessarily pick the right one. They're not clear in terms of how they are labeled for dropdown. And if we have that information early in the process, we can also use it to present specific questions and branching logic for students. And so one of the things we're talking about is how to make that experience as simple as possible right from the start, so that if a student goes to a college's site and selects right away, I'm a high school student also taking college courses, or I'm only taking non-credit courses, then that would automatically determine the application that they see and the questions that are presented to them, so that they see the fewest number possible to make the experience as efficient as possible. So I'm seeing here that some colleges require a new application every year, and can we adjust that 2-year time frame? I believe, and Patty, help me out, I'm not sure if that's something that is hard coded as far as the 2-year time frame, or if that's something that colleges can control in any way. Do we know? Oh,
I may need to unmute her. Jennifer, hold on. Let me see here. A lot of people here today going through alphabetically. There you are. Patty, you should be in control of your own destiny now.
Oh, okay, I was just about to type it in.
There
You know what? A great question. I was just about to respond. So that 2-year time frame is really just related to auto population. So students can resubmit applications every year. They can actually submit applications every term. It's just that we're going to remember, the system's going to remember their previously submitted application responses, anything that can be auto-populated to save them time within 2 years of the last submitted application. Does that make sense, Jennifer?
yes.
Okay. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you so much, Patty. The next question in the chat, are you in an Ellucian colleague school and not sure who that's directed to? The Technology Center works with all ERPs and including adapters and support for Colleague and Banner and PeopleSoft. We've got a few other in the pipeline that we're watching. We know some RFPs have been done recently, leading towards some new purchases for ERPs. So we'll watch that. Next question, are adult schools included in the dual enrollment discussion? They are. SB 554 updates were made last fall, allowing for adult special part-time admits. And we are, as we're looking at the dual enrollment workflow changes that are potentially there, we are also talking about adult schools and some branching between dual enrollment for high school and dual enrollment for adult school. So Jane Linder, who's our product manager, she's here today. She is leading that conversation with the field to make sure that both are part of the plan. So students updating the application every year, I think Patty answered that. Yes, here we go. So I think that's it for questions. So we have seen several colleges who have jumped in and adopted non-credit application, or the non-credit application for use in supporting their students. And so now we will hear from Pasadena City College to talk about what their specific experience looked like. And we know that it's always great to hear from someone who has gone through it, experienced the bumps in the road, and can speak to some of the lessons that they've come out with. So I'm going to turn it over to the team at Pasadena, and we will hear from them. So take it away.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Miyabe. I'm the Director of Enterprise Applications at Pasadena City College. We're privileged to be able to share with you our experience. Just as a little background, we tried to write ourselves a non-credit application, but when it came to all of the data elements for reporting, it became more and more challenging, especially as I think at that time the new race and ethnicity codes came out, and they were miles long as the credit application is, and it became very challenging. And at about the same time, thankfully, the CCCApply released the non-credit application, and we were able to, we looked at it, we previewed it with the non-credit team, and they were in favor of it, and so we went forward. And on that note, I will turn it over to Jaspal.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, just follow. There's a little bit of an echo, so either the phone mic or your local mic will
Yep,
need
I
to.
think that was the phone mic.
Yeah.
You're very faint.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
low at the moment, volume wise.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, just not very
Okay.
not very loud, I'm sorry to say.
Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Hello? Can you hear me now?
It's about the same volume, just I don't know, maybe use your whole timbre.
Okay.
Speak to the back of the room, and I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Give me 1 second then.
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide then? All right. So one of the big things about the new application is the better layout. Starting from, you can look at your previous applications. You can see what your application number is, the one that you're currently working on, and your CCC ID, which is really useful to tell, admissions and records team. The other part that we really like about this application, as opposed to the old one, is the guided path through the application. So on the home screen or any screen you're on, whether you're on account information or enrollment information, you know exactly what step you're on, and students really appreciate that too. So we've gotten feedback from students and also the admissions and records team, and this is one of the big things that they do like. The other thing is resuming applications, which are in progress. Before, we had our old application created we had to create a temporary username and a temporary PIN. And if you forgot that, then you wouldn't be able to resume your application. On this one, you can save, you can come back later and, resume right back from where you started or where you left off. And the last thing that students really like actually is application tracking. So once they've submitted the application, at the end of the application, they get to save all the information about the confirmation number and anything else they need to save. And admissions and records really enjoys this feature because they can just ask the student when did they apply and what the confirmation number is, so they can look it up. Before, this was not a feature that was obviously available in our in-house application, and this just saves a lot more time for admissions and records team. Next slide. All right, so the impact on students, one of the biggest things is that they are creating one OpenCCC account for all colleges. So whether they apply to credit or non-credit or, to a different campus besides Pasadena City College, they can go ahead and log into that same account and then apply, or they can apply to the other college if the college is using the CCCApply application. This helps us out also because we are trying to resolve and reduce the amount of duplicates that we get. And one of the good things is that we're catching more duplicates. We're merging them together before a new account is created for the student. And sorry, that's helpful, but also we're also trying to create more awareness to this with the students that they can use their CCC ID across all colleges, and they don't have to reapply for a new ID every time they're reapplying to the campus. One good thing is, of course, this the CCCApply application requires an email address. So communication afterwards is easier, so we can pull the list and then email out to students as needed. Previously, we didn't have that option of it being required. Students may fill it out or did fill it out and some didn't. So it's more consistent that we have their email. And one of the big things that students also like is it's only been 2 semesters since we've been using it, is the submission history is preserved. So they can click into my applications, look at which campus they applied to, was it credit or non-credit, and so on. And the application, if there's nothing wrong with it, it's near instantaneous acceptance. So they'll get a welcome email from CCCApply that we've modified or put our own wording in, and then within a few minutes, if there's nothing wrong with their application, they'll get an acceptance email with their username and user ID. Joyce, is this?
No, I think you were going to do it.
Okay. All right, no worries. Supporting our students. One of the things that we started doing when we launched was have welcome center staff that was already helping students on the ground pre-COVID and pre-working from home. But now we have a person who's triaging any issues that may come up. One of the things is that students are not comfortable filling out the application at home sometimes. And we have some welcome center staff that will walk you through it. So we have a person who's speaking, Spanish speaking staff member, and I believe a Cantonese and Mandarin speaking staff member currently, who will walk the student through the application. We have created how-to guides on how to create an email address with Yahoo and Google. Also, we've made a guide on how to create an OpenCCC account and how to navigate through the application itself. And we haven't put it out there yet. We have some fixes to do, but if students do want something in written form, we could send it out to them. We just made a new instructional video. It's on the Noncredit YouTube page, Noncredit PCC YouTube page, and it walks the student through creating an OpenCCC account and how to fill out the application, or it's just a general guide. So this is some of the stuff that we're doing. Next slide. Impact on staff. So one of the things that admissions and records really appreciates is that if there's nothing wrong with the application, it goes all the way through. They don't have to do any manual pushes. And previously with our old application, there were a couple forms that that had to be used in Banner for checking residency, which we don't check now, and then checking for under 19, I believe. But now, they don't have to do that anymore. For suspended applications that might have a discrepancy, it'll fall into SWACCAP, and we'll talk about SWACCAP in a couple slides. It's something that's for Banner schools, so if you're not on Banner, you're probably not familiar with it, but that helps resolve duplicate issues and catches anything else that we need to catch. Next slide.
Thank you, Jaspal. So I'm Adam Howard, Assistant Director for Enterprise Applications at PCC. I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical side of our implementation. So the non-credit application data is delivered into our system using the same method that we get our data for the credit applications through SuperGlue. So it's basically a real-time delivery of the application information. We used to use the download client for our credit applications. We use SuperGlue now for both credit and for non-credit. The implementation of SuperGlue was fairly straightforward. We worked with an implementation engineer at the Tech Center to install a Linux virtual machine in our network that does the interface between the Tech Center and our banner database. Our DBA created the tables that SuperGlue delivers data into. Right now, we're receiving the credit and non-credit applications into one table and the multiple measures data into another table. And once we were able to test it, it basically just works. It was pretty easy to do. So most of the applications that we receive, especially on the non-credit side, come in into the table, and we have a database trigger that processes them as soon as they land. And most of them are accepted into Banner basically in real time. So the student is provisioned their account, they get their ID number, and they're able to go in and register for classes. Like Jaspal mentioned, if there are any issues with an application, such as if it may be a duplicate of a person record that's already in the system, or if there's anything unexpected about the data, it'll go into our suspense view called SWACCAP. It's a banner screen that our credit and non-credit admissions users use to process those applications that need a little more attention. Okay. Next slide.
Oh, I think we skipped.
Yeah, Jennifer, we went forward to.
So Adam already talked a little bit about this. Just an overview. It is a view. I believe we adopted this from Ventura. I can't remember, but it does let us filter between credit and non-credit applications. So the credit admissions and records can look at the suspended applications separately from non-credit and not have to look through, you know, all of the applications that are suspended. And mainly the suspense issues will happen due to duplicate applications, but sometimes the data does come in and it doesn't look correct. For example, address might not come in, although we haven't actually experienced addresses being omitted. We just want to make sure, you know, like the student did click a certain button to make that they don't have an address or they don't have a certain type of required field information. So we can review the errors one by one in this view, and we can actually communicate directly out of SWACCAP and put in any requests that we want to from the students. So if they're missing any information, we can just ask them to verify it right out of SWACCAP instead of grabbing their email and going through, you know, our normal email channels, which could be Outlook or Gmail if you're using that on your campus. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the good part. The old application, the response time was 2 to 4 days because admissions and records was allotting a certain amount of time to push those applications only a couple of times a week. So if you applied on a Friday, you might not hear back till Tuesday or Wednesday of the week after. With the new application, as I said earlier, the acceptance time is less than an hour, but really it can be like 10 minutes. They'll get their CCCApply welcome email after they've submitted their application, and then they will get our PCC acceptance email. And what we've done is, just to add on to that, we've paired our welcome email with our online orientation in that welcome letter or welcome email. And so students can view the orientation, which is available in English right now. and it'll automatically tag into Banner that they've viewed the whole orientation. And then what we've added on to that is also they can sign up for an assessment right then and there after they viewed the orientation. And that removes 2 or 3 steps that students would have, in the past have had to come in onto campus for the application, then for the orientation, and then for signing up for an assessment, which was all in person before. The last part is new application, even when they're suspended, it's less than 2 days, and it really mainly falls on the students replying back to admissions and records team. Our team is very responsive. They'll go through the suspended applications once a day towards the end of the day, and if the student doesn't reply, then the timing goes up, but we try to get the applications moved forward as fast as possible.
Okay. So that covers all the slides for Pasadena City College. And I know that there are all kinds of questions popping up in the chat that are specific to their setup. And so I want to just pause for a minute and see if there are any other questions that any of you have before we get moving on the next couple of pieces of the webinar. So thank you again to the Pasadena team. I really appreciate your partnership and being here, and the fact that you had tried your hand at your own application and had lessons learned there as well is helpful to hear. We are always looking at streamlining, and things that colleges have learned with those types of undertakings help guide the system improvements as well. So any other questions from anyone in the chat? So I want to talk a little bit about current stats for the non-credit application. We have 22 colleges who've adopted it. Some of them are in various stages of implementation. As was mentioned, our team here at the Technology Center is happy to help with setup and making sure that data is flowing and that you have access to Pilot to check all of that. Since the start of this current fiscal year, so within this last fiscal year that we are finishing up real soon, we've processed over 48,000 non-credit applications. That shows a significant increase in the number of colleges using the non-credit app. Previous year to date numbers were only a couple of thousand. So we've really seen an increase in use of the tool. And with that, we're getting some really great feedback from colleges who are using it. So I want to talk a little bit about adopting the application. I'm actually going to turn it over to one of our college relationship managers, Monica Matusik, to talk a little bit about how they can assist. Monica, are you able to unmute?
I can, Jennifer.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Warren Whitmore. I'm the lead college relationship manager with the Tech Center. And me and my team are here to be a point of contact for you for any of the products and services related from the Tech Center. If we don't have the answer, then we will either get it for you or point you in the right direction. If you're not sure of which of us, there's Warren, Monica, and Monica, which one is your manager for your college, just go ahead and use that email that you see there on the screen, and it hits all three of us, and we'll respond very quickly. So Jennifer, I'm not sure if there's any additional detail that you want me to go into, but we're your guys, we're your advocates within the Tech Center.
Yes, and they are your main point of contact, but they also are a great resource to make sure that you have all of the information that's needed. They can connect you with other colleges who have similar setups you may want to talk to about your own local implementation. They put you in touch with our implementation managers and configuration team. And so they're really the starting point to get moving on adopting the tool. I want to touch just on a few highlights. There were a couple of questions in the chat around the CCC ID and OpenCCC And one of the things that we've been working on most recently are some significant changes to that process across our entire student success suite. So we have a new student account creation process coming. And by coming soon, I mean, we are working on getting it out to pilot in the next 10 days. And that way you can go in and check it out. So we are streamlining and enhancing the account creation process. That includes moving the social security number from the account creation to the application, and having previous name also moved to the application. So social security number is still part of the application process itself, but not the account creation through OpenCCC. We are also removing the security questions with this new release. So right now, when a student sets up an account, they have to come up with answers to several security questions. Our feedback on that has not been great with how it impacts some of our students. And so we are removing that piece of our account creation process. And instead, we are working on verification and recovery via email or text that will be, so account verification will happen at the point of creation via email or text. And so colleges will then get a verified email or phone number depending on how a student chooses to set up their account. They can choose to set up their primary account with a mobile phone number. An email address is still required, as was pointed out. It's a great communication tool for the colleges. So we want to make sure that you still have that ability to communicate with students. However, since many students, their primary sign-on device is a mobile phone, we're making that a primary as well. Our Spanish language version will mirror what we've got in CCCApply and the Noncredit application right now, and it will persist from the point of account creation through to the recovery email and text notification. So that will be the Spanish language pieces of the new interface. The mobile first design is in support of a wider student audience. And so all of this is coming soon. And I will show you a little bit about what that's going to look like. When you create your account, the interface is clean. This is a responsive interface here that will, change depending on the device that's being utilized. And so this is the first account page, mobile phone, or use email, text my verification code. So we will have that in the verified piece as well, as I mentioned. And here's the Cambiar Espanol button that persists. So protocols in place to minimize fake applications. We are constant. So I'm gonna pause right here and I'm gonna go through some of the questions. It looks like we have the Noncredit application. If you go to the link to the public documentation page that's in the chat, you can see some of the screenshots from there. You can also get access to the pilot environment when if you're interested in that. You can reach out to your CRMs to get more information about what the application itself looks like. Emails for tech center support, CCCApply.Info, or staff support at zendesk.com. Those are in there. Version 2.0 of OpenCCC. So a student having multiple CCC IDs. We know that our duplication rate can be a challenge in terms of students who've had accounts set up for them or who've set them up many years ago in some cases, or with someone's assistance where they don't know that they have an account already. The way that we've designed the system is to keep our duplication rate as low as possible. So one of the things that we have available through our support desk is a method for account recovery that tries to keep students from having multiple CCC IDs. If you run into a student who does have multiple CCC IDs, you can also contact our support desk to talk about how to address that as well. Thank you, Monica, for sharing the CRMs, the college by college, the list for the college relationship managers. And also I have to have a side note, Monica is celebrating a birthday. So thank you, double thank you for being on the call. Minimizing fake applications. So a couple things that are happening with this rollout of OpenCCC 2.0. We are hoping to add a software as a service enterprise, I guess you could call it fraud detection service that would eliminate fraud or reduce fraud significantly at the point of account creation. That would be the first in the process, the first bookend is what I'm calling it, in the process to address fraud. So this would be done at the point of account creation. And then we have our fraud filter at the point of application submission. Our fraud filter up until last fall was being updated on demand, which was usually every month or two. In the fall, we moved to updates on a weekly basis to that fraud filter. As of February, we are updating the fraud filter every day. So every night, our fraud filter learns from any applications that came in, and most of all learns from colleges who have made note of correct fraud notes from the filter or incorrect. So every night our fraud filter is learning, but we also know that there are processes that colleges can put in place to help with that. So we're working on a survey right now to determine what colleges are doing around .edu email addresses. You can go to Reddit and you can find out in 44 easy steps how to get a .edu email address. And we are hoping to cut down on making that as attractive as it can be right now. So we're working on some best practices to share out. A memo came out from the Vice Chancellor back in February of 2020, talking about changing email provisioning at the local level, but we're working on getting those bookends in place around the parts of the process that we have control over with OpenCCC and CCCApply. And at this point, our fraud filter just by itself is hovering around a 97% accuracy rate. For colleges who mark fraud and confirm that it's fraud or not, our percentage of accuracy is much higher. And some weeks we are upwards of 98, 99% accuracy, but some weeks without that assistance from colleges, we are down in the high 80s. So we really need all of you at your colleges to make sure that you're marking fraud applications so that our tool can learn. And so as we move through this release that's coming up, and I'll talk dates here in a minute, we're hoping that with those bookends in place, we'll be over 99% accuracy in stopping fraud. We also know that it's impacting colleges as it relates to enrollment and the intention of bad actors to defraud financial aid. So we are helping as much as we can in the parts that we can to keep those numbers down. Let's see. Will the application be available in other languages other than English and Spanish? Right now, our primary focus has been on English and Spanish. When we created the internationalization functionality within the application, we did it so that other languages could be added in the future. And that's really dependent on prioritization and feedback from the field in terms of what comes next. Based on languages spoken in California, Tagalog makes sense in terms of one to consider, but there are, I believe, 54 other languages that may make sense as well. So the students will receive texts when they set up their account using a cell phone number. Let's go back here. They'll put in their mobile phone number, and then this will change color and it will say text my verification code. And it will be a simple text that says your verification code is da 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 da. And the next screen says enter your verification code. So in that case, it's a simple verification email or a text that shows that number that they then put in. If a student chooses use email instead, they get the same message sent to that email address with a code as well. So those are both verified. What month do you expect these changes to take effect? I'm going to talk about that just in about 2 slides. And many of our students have had problems with the terminology about not having a social security number. We are working on that. That's the version that's out there is actually a softer version than it used to be. But we know that that's still a blocker for students, especially those who are undocumented and who already face barriers when it comes to enrolling. So that is something that we continue to address. So how will this new system prevent fraud or auto bot applications, each CCC ID and phone number association one-to-one? Yes. So unique phone number, unique email address. If a student has an account that has duplication associated with it, then the first time they attempt to utilize a duplicate number, they'll get an error that says this phone or email is already in use, and they'll be guided on how to address that. There will also be some help around getting a free email address or a free phone number if they don't have a cell phone. If they choose to use the cell phone, again, that's not required, but one-to-one for CCC ID and the primary contact. So current spam filter is not working. Again, we are working on that with our software as a service we're looking at for an update. And again, I ask everyone to make sure that they are marking their fraud, confirming that the system is working, and that we are teaching our machine learning process every night. Mike is our product manager. He has said that students can add a phone number later and make it their preferred method of contact if they wish. So we have been working through what all of these different scenarios look like. And yes, so social security number, we know that it's a blocker, and it still continues to be something that we're working on. And that's actually what we are looking at for all of our questions as it relates to the applications. How can we simplify them? We just did a survey with our user group, and simplifying terminology and question content is high up on the list of priorities. We're talking about changing Lexile levels so they're more targeted at elementary school types of levels to make sure that we're not leaving anyone out. And we also have our accessibility specialist working with us on that to make sure that it is clear for students with cognitive disabilities as well. Is preferred versus cell phone number differentiated in the application? I believe there is a box still that will persist for preferred contact number, whether that's a cell number or something else. Landline is still an option. So again, account recovery process. This is another area where we've had challenges, as was mentioned, in terms of students with duplicate CCC IDs or ones where someone helped them set up their account and they don't have their credentials. Yes, we have Spanish-speaking help desk staff. I just saw that pop up. Simplified user interface with clear instructions to students, streamlined recovery process. Again, no more security questions, and more options for self-service account recovery. So I'll show, we have a 24/7 help desk that will remain in place, email, mobile, text, or help desk. The recover account, if you go in and ask to have a password reset, we now tell you what email address we're going to send it to. We didn't used to do that. So you had to guess which email account was used to set up your CCC ID and OpenCCC account. Now we mask it and tell you where to go. And we're hoping that helps. And then you start off with this box. We start with date of birth and last name, and then you can choose how you wish to receive your password reset, including going to support. Our non-credit application students have the option. It is not required. That is also correct of the non-credit application and the standard application. So social security number is not required for any applicant within the suite of Apply applications. Password reset will be available via phone. Mike, can you confirm what password reset would look like via cell phone? The 24/7 help desk phone number is an 800 number, and I'm hoping that someone can help me and put it in the chat. They can start off by going to CCCApply.info, and the phone number is at the top of that screen. So CCCHelp.info. And yes, account recovery codes can be sent by text message, by SMS. So CCCHelp.info, at the top of the screen, there's a phone number that students can call. I called it just last week because I ended up with a student in my phone inbox that had some challenges. So it's quick to pick up. So dates, here's what everyone has been asking. We are going to pilot for OpenCCC 2.0 May 14th. And we are then going to add the other tools in for integration testing. So next up will be MyPath. It'll go to pilot in July. Apply will go to pilot in August. And again, we have to test all the integration, the things that we are taking out of OpenCCC, we have to put into CCCApply. And so we have to test and make sure that all that data is going to the right place. All three are slated for production in late September, early October, but each phase is contingent upon pilot results and any discovery that happens during that pilot phase. We want to make sure that colleges have plenty of time to prepare and to test the systems as well. So how to prepare your college? There are, I believe, still over 5 months until the production release. We already have release notes available with screenshots. If you have materials that you produce for your students, those screenshots are already available. Details on all the new processes that I just talked about for the release. And you can watch the page that's linked here. You can watch it. There's a little eyeball over here, and any updates that are made, you'll be notified. So it talks about the release overview, the timing, what pilot testing looks like, changes at a glance. It has all the screenshots here, what things did look like, what they look like now. So that's all available right now in the release notes. I will add that to the chat right now. And again, you can watch that page and get any updates as they come. So we also have follow-up emails that will be coming out, and posts that would be made on our forum, our ccctechnology.info that was noted earlier. And we are looking for volunteers for user testing. So if you want to make sure that something that you need for your college is being covered, we are recruiting for testers. And so you can contact Rick Snodgrass, our project manager, to join the testing group or to refer student testers. Unfortunately, we can't accommodate all students at your college. We have had that request before, but if you have student groups who you would like to see participate in some way, then make sure that you reach out to Rick and let him know that you have an interest, either yourself or for students to participate. Putting his email in the chat right now. And our student support numbers are there in the chat also. So ccchelp.info with an 877 number, or a support@openccc.net. And thank you, Jane, for the note that screenshots can be downloaded from the release notes page. During the testing, in terms of what we're recruiting for, we have multiple rounds of testing. We're going to need testing throughout the entire summer because we have those integration points that we will be testing for. So it will be 1 to 2 hours of self-paced testing with kickoff meetings and wrap-up meetings for feedback that are required. Those will vary depending on the phase that we are in, and live support will be available for testers during business hours. Students will receive incentive cards to participate, so we want to make sure that that's known. We have typically Amazon cards that we provide to students who participate in testing. So again, reach out if you have interest in that. With that, I'm going to pause here and make sure we've answered everyone's questions from the chat, but please put any other questions in there that you might have. Is it still ideal for students to call when they no longer have access to the email they used when they created their accounts? Yes. For students who used maybe their high school email address or some other that they don't have access to anymore, yes, call the help desk number and they can get that updated. Let's see. Yes, while we cannot provide incentive cards for our staff testers do receive our undying gratitude and the good warm feeling that they get from being part of a process to support students going forward. Slide 26, this outlines our release notes and how to get information on the upcoming release. And again, that will be a fall production release, but pilot starts actually next week. So you'll be able to go in and play around within your pilot environment, just like you would for any other release, but you'll be able to do it for part of March, part of May, all of June, July, August, and most of September at this point. So we welcome everyone to go in, check things out, give us feedback as we go. As I mentioned during the timing of the release, each phase is contingent upon pilot results and discovery. So we want to hear from all of you during the pilot phase, things that you're concerned about, make sure we have everything covered before we move to production. So with that, here is general information. You can reach out to our enabling services, college relationship managers, and there's our CCCApply.info page. Again, this has been recorded and will be posted and sent out to everyone who registered in advance. The enrollment status of adult school students authorized to enroll in college is problematic, as adult school students who are not SB 554 use this designation. So I will have you reach out to Jane. She's our product manager, and we are working on this. And we've actually got our subcommittee talking about how best to change that drop down language, all of that, to make it clear for our different types of dual enrollment students and our different types of students in general. So I just put Jane's contact information in the chat, and please make sure that you reach out to her with that making that language more specific. Jose, if you want to implement CCCApply, it is actually really fast. All you have to do is contact our team, make sure that you have the right URLs, go in and pilot anything that you want to in terms of data delivery. But we've set up colleges in a few weeks versus months, depending on your local processes and how quickly you need it. So we actually helped Calbright come online within a matter of a couple of weeks, and our team is poised to assist however they can. So it can be done pretty quickly. So I think that's it. Thank you all so much for already stepping up to volunteer for pilot testing. And will changes to the enrollment status of adult school students apply to all? That is still under discussion. So we are working on how best to make that clear and make sure that we have categories available for each of our student types. So thank you. If you have additional questions, please put them in the chat or reach out to your CRMs. They are happy to answer any questions you have as well, and to hand you over to our highly skilled implementation team. They get 5-star reviews across all platforms for their help with implementation. And we look forward to having them help you get on board. Can a student recover login information using just a mobile number? Not at this time, but going forward, that will be a primary help functionality. So thank you all. Thank you, Pasadena City College team. Much appreciated. When I attended your presentation at CCCA, I was very impressed with everything that you had done and how you were helping your students shorten the time for application to your non-credit program. So thank you for partnering with us today. And I know that you'll probably get a lot of questions as well, because colleges always want to talk to the people who are doing it out in the field. So thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it.